Welcome to our webinar today, Energy Efficiency and Community Choice Energy Opportunities for Fresno. We are very happy, the Climate Center, very happy to be partnering with Fresno Economic Opportunities Commission on today's webinar. I just want to recognize from the get-go that there are so many critically pressing priorities in our communities now and in the Central Valley with the COVID disruption and so many other things, and really appreciate the elected leaders and civil servants for being able to continue to focus attention on issues that are ongoing and that are of concern, and that really have some relationship, as we'll see in this webinar later, with the presentation from an operational community choice agency that's stepping up to provide assistance for their community in the COVID crisis. So with that, I will give our brief introductions. We will hopefully have Councilmember Luis Chavez phoning in to offer some welcoming remarks. Councilmember Chavez has been a real champion of community choice energy and other energy related issues for Fresno, and so we really appreciate his leadership. David Ware of Fresno EOC and Elizabeth Jonasson of Fresno EOC will be presenting the Fresno EOC Energy Efficiency Programs, and J.R. Killigrew of Monterey Bay Community Power also on board. I also should say we really should have Destiny Rodriguez photo up here, because she's going to be presenting as well. Just the folks that are sort of new to community choice energy, Destiny's going to sort of provide a briefing on what community choice energy is all about. So just a few housekeeping notes. The webinar is being recorded, and we do post our webinars on our Climate Center, theclimatecenter.org website, along with materials related to the webinar, the slides and whatnot. We do keep folks in the listen-only mode throughout the webinar. Please enter your questions either in the Q&A panel or the chat panel in your control panel. I think either one is fine. And we will save some time near the end for Q&A. And immediately after this webinar, we are going to be opening it up for a media opportunity. So any members of the media, that'll be exclusively for your needs and questions. So appreciate members of the media being present. All right, so a quick message from our sponsor, Calpine Energy Solutions. Calpine Energy Solutions is the premier provider of data management and customer contact center services for community choice aggregation in California. For the past decade, they have been the trusted partner for CCA Community, serving 17 different operating CCAs and managing customer data for over 3.5 million meters across the state. Calpine's best-in-class back-office support services help guide CCA clients from initial launch through mass enrollment phases and beyond. This, combined with years of billing experience, electronic data interchange expertise, customized implementation planning, and robust management, enable Calpine CCA clients to be successful and achieve their long-term mission. So thank you very much, Calpine, for being a supporter of this. And do we have Councilmember Chavez on the line? Councilmember Chavez, have you been able to call in? Are you with us? I guess perhaps he has not called in yet, so maybe when he does, we can come back to Councilmember Chavez. I will now pull up for Fresno EOC, the Fresno EOC slides, so that you can go ahead. And I think if we learn that Councilmember Chavez has joined in, we'd rather not interrupt your presentation, but if he does call in, it might be great if you could take a quick break and allow him to make a few comments. That would be wonderful. But with that, I would like to introduce, I think Elizabeth, you're going to go first. So Elizabeth Jonasson of Fresno EOC.
Hi, well, good morning, everybody. I first have to say how thrilled I am to be here and be able to present on some of the things that Fresno EOC is doing and a little bit about Fresno EOC with some incredible partners that we have here today. So I'm incredibly grateful for that opportunity and to be able to talk a little bit about what we do. Can we get the next slide? So a little bit about us first. That's my picture. I look a little bit different. We haven't all been able to go to the hair salon in a few months. So, but all joking aside, that's myself. I am the Strategy and Communications Officer for Fresno EOC. And David Ware, our Energy Services Director, will be presenting after me. He'll be presenting on what our Energy Services Department does and can give some ideas as to projects that we're doing in the community that we could be enhancing if community choice energy is approved through the city or the county of Fresno. Next slide. So this is the agenda. I'll be going over about Fresno EOC, a little bit of our history, some of our programs and services, and then I'll turn it over to David, who will talk a little bit about our Energy Services Department, all that we have to offer under that umbrella, the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, weatherization, our solar projects, and specifically a very interesting investment from the state of California in the Transform Fresno project. And then we'll leave open some time for questions, either at the end or at the end of the entire presentation. So a little bit about Fresno EOC. We are a community action agency that serves Fresno County. There's one community action agency serving virtually every county in the entire United States. We were born out of the civil rights movement and really as a part of the war on poverty. There was a recognition back during the civil rights era, Lyndon B. Johnson, we had Reverend Martin Luther King really understanding that in order to advance equity in our societies and civil rights in our society, we needed to combat poverty. And so one of the ways of doing that was establishing the Community Action Network, which is essentially nonprofit organizations in each, serving each county of the United States to ensure that we are serving people in poverty, trying to get them out of poverty by whatever means necessary. And so you'll see that every community action agency is a little different because they're meant to adapt to the local needs. They're meant to be responsive, be able to quickly adapt to whatever the situation is, whatever the needs of the local residents are. You can imagine a community action agency in Kentucky looking very different than Fresno EOC. Here in Fresno, we are one of the largest community action agencies in the country. And we've grown to serve a wide variety of facets of people's lives. And that's in part, unfortunately, because we have such a huge need in our Central Valley and in Fresno in particular. And so in order to serve those needs, we've recognized that they're varied. So we have programs that are for everything from prenatal, so we can serve you before you are born with WIC, early Head Start, early childhood education programs, maternal health, breastfeeding support, nutritional support, all the way to our foster grandparents program. Through your youth with youth outreach and the Safe Place Network, which is a network of places where youth can go and receive assistance, to our job training program through local conservation corps, our summer youth internship program, all the way to volunteering as a foster grandparent. So we serve the gamut of ages, the gamut of needs, just to make sure that eventually we put ourselves out of business and we completely eradicate poverty by providing opportunity to people. Next slide. So you're probably wondering, what's the connection here? So Fresno EOC has been partnering with the Climate Center for at least over a year now. And part of the connection is that the reality with being able to have local control and potentially local resources is local investments. And so some of the programs that you'll see David talk about a little bit more in detail are really affecting in a positive manner the daily lives of thousands of residents throughout our community. And when you pair that with potentially increased investments in these potential programs, we see there's an area of opportunity there. With local control and local decision making, there could be additional investments in programs like the ones that we offer to help overall reduce energy consumption, but also make sure that families have a little bit more disposable income. We know with our high rates of poverty that having a little extra money can mean the difference between getting healthcare, getting prescriptions, or meeting other basic needs. And so we see a huge connection between local control and local decisions over funds with investments in programs for our community that help our community be more successful and be able to take care of their basic needs at that level. So that is why Fresno EOC is at the table and why we're really excited about this potential partnership and potentially bringing this to Fresno. So now I'm going to turn it over to David, who's going to talk a little bit about energy services and some of the programs that we provide.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. And good morning, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about what we do. Again, I'm David Ware, and I serve as the Energy Services Director for Fresno EOC. I'll be providing a brief overview of EOC's Energy Services Program. We have been providing these services to our clients for over 30 years. Next slide. One of our main programs is the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, referred to as LIHEAP. We serve all of Fresno County, which spans over 6,000 square miles. So our service territory is rather large, and our funding, for this program here locally is $10 million, over $10 million annually. And about 70% of this is for utility bill assistance. And the balance is allocated to installation of energy efficiency measures, what we refer to as weatherization services. Low-income households can apply for assistance to pay their utility bill, and this could range anywhere between $250 and up to $750, depending on the amount of their current utility bill. We're serving anywhere between 12 to 14,000 homes per year, clients per year. However, due to the funding, clients can only apply for this utility assistance once per year. It's the summer now, but in the winter, we also assist our clients that heat their homes to pay for, propane or even wood, cost of wood, if they don't have electric or gas, services. At times, on the Energy Crisis Intervention program, clients encounter situations where due to many factors, such as loss of a job or illness, they get behind in their utility bill. And when this happens, we work directly with the utility company so we can fast track the client's application if they receive a 24-hour, shutoff notice and prevent any unnecessary shutoffs. When dealing with our clients, we also provide client education to help them understand the utility bill and to contact us as soon as possible if they're getting behind on their bill to avoid receiving a shutoff notice in the first place. We also make sure they're on the proper public utility rate structure that is available to low-income households, which is a pretty significant savings over the standard utility rates. And we also provide, best practices help clients reduce their energy costs. This could include, suggested settings, for their heating and cooling appliances, using proper use of programmable thermostats, maybe using ceiling fans or portable fans in the summer, and also how utilities' time of use billing affects their bills. Next slide. So weatherization services. Our annual funding is approximately $6 million and includes funding from LIHEAP, Department of Energy, California Public Utilities Commission, and the City of Fresno. Our scope of services is rather broad, and our goal is to install all feasible energy efficiency measures. I have a listing there, and that includes things such as attic insulation, door weather stripping, window repair and replacement, new appliances. A client could receive refrigerators, heating and cooling systems, water heaters, and things like that. We also provide energy efficiency lighting, so they get maybe an LED bulb in replacement of an incandescent or even a CFL, and also hardwired fixtures. We do duct sealing, caulking, low flow shower heads, again, to reduce water and also heated water. We put in high efficiency toilets, again, to save water, ceiling fans, smoke and seal alarms, and even do some minor home repair. So it's pretty extensive as to what we can do, to help our clients. Moving on to emergency heating and cooling services. We do have a special program when we're dealing with clients who have maybe health issues or other problems. We'll go ahead and put them in a program where they can receive cooling services or heating services on an expedited basis. What happens typically, is that, their system is not operating, this cooling season, comes into play, and therefore they need to, they call us when they start using it, it doesn't work. So we have to go in there pretty quickly. We provide an evap cooler or heating device portable in the winter. And therefore, in the meantime, before we can actually pull permits, we're able to assist the client when that happens. Next slide. Part of our process involves doing a home assessment and inspection services. In addition to installing energy efficient measures, we also assess a home for determining what measures are feasible and perform a safety inspection of the home. Diagnostic tests are performed, such as shell leakage tests, to determine what measures can be installed. We also perform safety inspections to make sure smoke and seal alarms are in place and actually functioning properly. All homes also receive a combustion appliance safety test to make sure there are no hazards present. Sometimes we encounter a home where a client has converted a garage into living space, and there may be a gas water heater present in that area, and therefore this creates an unsafe living condition. So we help alleviate that and mitigate that. And also our inspectors at the same time, when they're doing the assessment and inspections, they provide the clients with a basic energy efficiency education, discuss what they can do to help reduce their electric and gas usage to help lower their utility bills. So next slide. Solar services. Currently, we have approximately $4 million in funding to install solar PV systems for low-income households. These systems we install come with a 25-year warranty on both labor and materials to hopefully provide a worry-free system for our clients. We also provide solar design and hands-on installation training to our crews and also to other agencies throughout California. One of our projects that Elizabeth mentioned we're going to be presenting next involves installing 135 solar systems in Southwest Fresno. Before we get there though, we also install solar water heating systems. However, frequently the roof space is limited, especially when a solar PV system is in place, and therefore this measure may not be feasible at all times. So this has been a very brief overview of the assistance that Fresno EOC provides to our clients. It also helps reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the Central Valley. With these services, it could be anywhere from a low $1,500 worth of energy efficiency measures up to $10,000, depending if they need a whole new HVAC system. So it's a pretty broad, like I said, measure of services we provide. So at this time, I want to talk about this new exciting project, newer project that is part of a much larger effort in the city of Fresno. The name of this project is called Transform Fresno. So at this time, I'd like to show a little video that we have prepared.
David, if you don't mind, before we show the video, would you mind if I were to unmute Councilmember Chavez to say a few words? We do have him on now, and I'd like to unmute him and have him just say a quick hello.
Excellent, great idea.
Does that sound good? Councilmember Chavez, can you hear me, and can you say something so we can hear you?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Sounds good. Go ahead.
Great. No, appreciate the opportunity. Apologize. I had some technical difficulties logging on. I know I was supposed to say a few words of welcome, but you guys seem to have got the ball rolling already. But just wanted to thank you guys for the work that you've been doing. And I had a chance to listen in a little bit about the presentation. I believe it's David doing it with regards to what type of services we can offer our community. And the part that's really exciting for the city of Fresno, we've been on this journey now for a little bit, close to a year now, and started with the conversation with Woody, with Destiny, and now we're doing the analysis. But part of the reason why you see the interest in the city of Fresno is because of those programs specifically, and really making sure that we provide access to affordable energy to our community. We know that in the city of Fresno, we have large swaths of our older neighborhoods that don't have access to this, and oftentimes fall, prey to some of those folks that go in their homes and sell them, these super expensive pieces of equipment. But where I see the opportunity is on two parts. One is on making sure that we provide these opportunities to our low-income residents in Fresno. And then the other piece is also focusing on the small business component, where I think it'll be probably more now than ever, really necessary. We see what's happened in the last couple of months with this pandemic, and we've seen that the hit's really been more focused on the small mom and pop businesses. So there's those two opportunities, and I'll sum it up because I know David's got to get on with his presentation, but I just wanted to thank you guys for putting this together, and we will definitely be working with you guys on the next steps on what this looks like. It's taken a little bit longer time just because of COVID and some other issues we've had at City Hall, but we're definitely moving in that direction. And I see just the big opportunity in making this initiative happen here in the city of Fresno. I think our community, and particularly those that are disadvantaged, will benefit greatly from what we're trying to do. So again, thank you guys, and appreciate the opportunity to address the group here this morning.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Chavez. Really appreciate you being able to join us briefly, and really appreciate your leadership in the city in general, and on this issue in particular. So much appreciation. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yes, we will now go ahead and, okay, take care. Here, I will now go ahead and start the video.
These Fresno EOC projects are part of Transform Fresno, supported by a $66.5 million investment from California Strategic Growth Council's Transformative Climate Communities Program, an initiative of California Climate Investments cap and trade dollars at work.
TCC is a very innovative program based on greenhouse gases and generating money for those communities with the highest levels of poverty and poor air quality.
West Fresno has this long tradition of being neglected as far as resources and what have you. And so thanks to the city of Fresno, when the state decided to look at Fresno as one of the possible sites for TCC, the city of Fresno invited the community to participate in deciding what projects were going to be awarded.
The people that lived in this area, they got to decide, not some bureaucrat in Southern California, Northern or Sacramento or any place else. The people of Fresno made their decision.
We're going to be installing 130 solar units, and my core members here at the local conservation corps We're going to provide solar installation on homes here in the 93706 zip code.
So you're not only going to have these people benefiting by getting the solar panels and all the weatherization, but you're going to have people learning a trade that will go up beyond this project onto the next project and hopefully a career.
They introduced me to solar and they're like, do you want this opportunity? I tried it out and I actually like it. It's really exciting.
We'll be installing solar units, weatherizing homes in neighborhoods where they live in.
Oh, peace of mind, peace of mind. I don't have to worry about anything this year, you know. My PG&E I know is going to be lowered with solar panels. Everything's done.
It was very quick, very simple. They did it in one day. They got in there in less than a day. Very efficient. That was like the best thing. I mean, now we can, never had air conditioner before, now we do, and we can run it comfortably.
I'm hoping this will be truly transformative and changing lives and helping out an area of our community that's been neglected for a long time, and I feel good to be part of it.
I can go right around the corner and get pictures of one of my crews putting solar on a home in 93706 where our base is at, put those on Facebook and say, hey, this is what we're doing in our community in 93706. To me, I'm looking forward to that.
Wow, great, great.
Okay, well, thank you so much for helping us with the audio there and everything. So
sorry about that. First time ever running a video on Zoom, and I did not know there were 2 buttons you need to click. So now I know.
Very good. Again, we really appreciate that. So again, you kind of just get a feel for the project, like a very exciting project. This slide right here kind of gives a kind of a real brief recap. We have our local conservation corps crew members. A lot of these crew members actually live in the community. We're actually installing all of the weatherization and solar systems. This is a low-income weatherization program and also economic development. It's located in the southwest, Fresno, basically 93706. We're going to be installing weatherization services in 200 homes and doing solar systems for 135 homes. One interesting aspect of this too is that in partnering with the Air Board and Valley Clean Air Now, they're providing vouchers that help clients if they have a 20-year-old vehicle to convert that to a electric vehicle. So we're also doing 50 vehicles as well. So the total funding is over almost 3.3 million, with a matching funds of $530,000. Total budget is about 3.8 million. So it's a pretty significant project, but it's part of a much larger project, which is about 66 million. It's really helping a community that has been underserved for decades. So we're really excited about this project. Next slide. So the Transform Fresno project, the primary thing here, is to help reduce, greenhouse gases, and then, create a new green economy, by providing solar jobs. Like we said, we're training the local conservation crew to how to install solar, how to install weatherization measures. And so it puts, quite a bit of money back in our clients' pockets. It's potentially hundreds, maybe $350 a month we could be saving between the solar, the vehicle, and also just making their home more energy efficient and healthier. All of these services we were providing to our clients, of course, is at no cost. And we do, believe that through this project, we're able to provide healthier homes and improved health outcomes, for our clients. So thank you for your time. And now I'll turn this back over to Elizabeth for the last slide here.
I'm hoping everyone is now inspired by some of the opportunities and things that we can do, that we have been doing in our local community, and that we could potentially expand upon to really provide these benefits at a larger scale to more people. I did want to take the opportunity to invite everyone to stay connected with us. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. We also have a bi-weekly newsletter, Poverty Fighters, where we share some of our stories and we invite people to share with us as well. And also, if you want more information of some of our energy programs, you can find more information about that at fresnoeoc.org/energy. But just overall, in recap as to some of the things that David was talking about in terms of our programs, and the opportunities are endless in the city of Fresno for what we can do for reducing greenhouse gases and providing additional supports to our families.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you both. That was really good. And I think what we have coming up next is Destiny Rodriguez is going to give us a little overview of community choice energy, followed by J.R. Killigrew, who's waiting patiently from an operational community choice agency, who will talk to us a little bit about what they are doing in response to the COVID-19 crisis. So Destiny, I think you're up, ready to go?
Definitely.
Take it away. Just let me know when you want me to move the slides.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Destiny Rodriguez, and I just want to thank everybody for joining us today, and thank you for your interest in energy efficiency and community choice energy. I work for the Climate Center. We are a 501c3 nonprofit based in Santa Rosa, but I work and live here in the Central Valley. And a little background on me, I've worked for almost 14 years now in nonprofits, helping advocate for clean air, clean water, and now clean energy. And I'm very excited to share what community choice energy is to you and to everyone who are joining us today. So one of the ways that the Climate Center is helping to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, because our mission as a Climate Center is to deliver rapid greenhouse gas reductions at scale. And we're doing this starting in our home state of California. And how we are doing this is we are advocating and replicating a model called community choice energy, which essentially is an alternative energy provider that can be governed locally by a single jurisdiction, meaning a city, or it can also be governed through a joint powers authority, which is a partnership with the cities and the counties. So community choice energy is a local not-for-profit program. It can buy and generate electricity for local businesses, residents, agriculture, you name it. It was enabled by state law in 2002, and I am proud to say that there are now 21 community choice energy agencies in the state of California, which is amazing. When I first started, I think we weren't even at maybe 11 or so, and now we're already at 21. So it's quite an accomplishment for CCAs in this renewable energy movement. The Community Choice Energy Agency does partner with the investor-owned utilities such as PG&E to deliver service. And excuse me, sorry, there's a little bit of smoke inhalation from the fires, so excuse me if I'm a little, I have severe allergies, probably like many of you on here. So one of the focuses of community choice energy is to give customers a choice, where historically we've never had a choice of who our energy provider is. This is something that personally I like having a choice. So I'm pretty sure most people do. And through community choice energy, it is an automatic enrollment, but it does give customers a choice to opt out. You can stay with the investor-owned utility in your area, or if you like, you can stick with community choice energy, which would be local. Next slide. Thank you. So community choice energy essentially gives a city or a JPA the purchasing power. They can purchase from local generation sources. They can create their own generation sources, and also they can procure their own power. It's still a partnership with PG&E. PG&E is, or the investor-owned utilities, is still responsible for delivering the utility and delivering the bill to the customer, and maintaining the lines, and of course safety involved with that. I do want to mention that community choice energy does have an emphasis on clean renewable energy, which is why I think this is so important, because as we grow and move towards the future, we are seeing renewable energy coming everywhere, which is wonderful, because we do need to focus on more clean sources of energy. This is important because where your energy comes from, how it's produced, has an impact. It can have an impact on our health and our environment as well. So by shifting to clean renewables, we can curb our dependency on fossil fuels and dirty sources of energy. Next slide. So where is community choice energy happening? Well, I can tell you, like I said, there are 21 CCAs in the state of California, which equates to over 170 cities, serving more than 10 million customers, which is essentially half of the state of California is already implementing this. The CCAs currently provide half of California's electricity load. And they've also saved their customers over $90 million in cost savings, which is amazing. So over half the state is doing this. I can tell you the half that's not, it's the Central Valley. And we could totally benefit from a model of CCA here, because as everybody is well aware, if you're local here in Fresno, it's always very sunny in the summer, and a lot of that solar is not being captured. If we were able to create our own generation sources through CCA funding, we could generate jobs as well as help our economy locally. There's just a lot of benefits that it could bring to the Central Valley. And I can tell you, this is nationwide. This isn't just for California. There are 7 states in total, including California, that are already implementing community choice energy and doing it effectively. It's just California, we tend to kind of have the most, which is wonderful. And I'm hoping that the other half, the Central Valley, we can have a full state of community choice energy agencies serving all of our customers. Next slide. So I kind of touched on some of the benefits of community choice energy, but I'd really like to focus on all of the benefits of community choice energy. So one of the things that is my personal favorite is that community choice energy allows for community tailored programs. So what that means is revenues that would normally leave the local economy take a U-turn through community choice energy, and those revenues come back to the community and can be reinvested back into the local economy. And one of the things that can be done with that monies is it can be used to create it can be used to create new programs, and it can also help with existing programs. Very similar to what Elizabeth and David were talking about the energy efficiency programs. We could actually build on these and make them more robust, and also we can create new ones to help target with low-income communities. So one of the things that happened when COVID hit, many cities were not prepared. Many of us were very much taken by surprise by COVID. But I want to specifically say that the community choice energy agencies were one of the first to respond to the crisis. They took action by providing relief and aid to their communities. They allocated millions of dollars in COVID assistance through bill credits, bill deferments, grants for businesses, grants for community organizations, food donations, and more. And you will be hearing more from JR specifically of some of those things that community choice energy agencies have done for their customers during COVID and just being proactive. One of the other benefits is that it does offer a more competitive, lower rate. It can help stabilize your energy bill, which is wonderful. There's also the benefit of having local control and transparency. And what that means is you would be able to go to your city council or go to your county board of supervisors if a community choice energy agency was established, and you could have a conversation with your elected official and be part of the decision-making process of how you want this community choice energy agency to look like. You know, where do you want to see solar? Where do you don't want to see solar? And just be part of the process. One of the other benefits that I had mentioned was the economic benefits of job creation. This does create jobs. I want to say across the board, there's more than 4,200 jobs that have been created through community choice energy agencies, which is amazing. And that's definitely something we could use here locally with the current crisis and people unfortunately losing their jobs at this time. Another benefit is it has the potential for improved air quality, and I'll explain what this means. Yes, we're phasing out fossil fuels. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to clean the air in a matter of weeks or days. It's going to take time. But through community choice energy agencies, most of the CCAs that are up north offer and advocate for EV transportation, for electric vehicles. And if we have more electric vehicles on the road and promote electrification of transportation, this will help with lowering emissions for local air quality issues. And again, enhance public participation. Now you can, again, you can have a conversation. You can help the design of how this will look. You can speak up and let them know, let your electeds know what type of community programs that you would like to see in your area. And of course, innovation platform. And what this is doing is just creating new ideas through renewable energy, through CCAs, one of which I'm hoping comes sooner than later is home battery storage. In case of any outages, you would potentially have your own storage at your home, which would be amazing. Hopefully that will be coming sooner than later. Next slide, please. So as I was talking about local economics, we had done a study, the Climate Center had done a study back in 2016, just to see what leaves the county roughly. And it's roughly about $200 to $300 million that leaves our Fresno County annually. If we had a community choice energy agency, that money would take a U-turn back into local control. And again, keeping our dollars local. And the revenues, I mean, just imagine what we could do with $300 million. We could do so many types of programs. We could have emergency funds, for any other unforeseen rainy days, so to speak. And of course, putting the revenues back into our local economy. These are all wonderful benefits that I feel, unfortunately, Fresno and Fresno County is missing out on, and we need to take advantage of it. Next slide, please. There is a lot of interest in community choice energy here locally in the Valley. Fresno, we had done an informational session for the city of Fresno back in 2018, and it was very well received by the city council members. As you know, you heard from Councilmember Luis Chavez. So hopefully we can start getting CCA moving once again. You know, for obvious reasons, COVID has taken priority, and you know, hopefully we can start having those conversations and getting CCA back on track. Other areas of interest that people have expressed that they are interested in possibly exploring a CCA: Clovis, Sanger, Parlier, Kerman, Huron, Firebaugh, City of San Joaquin, just to name a few of some of the interested smaller cities within the county. Also, I'm happy to say that Stockton, the city of Stockton, has actually moved forward with their RFP, their request for proposal and actually today they're getting a list of consultants in response so that they can move forward in doing a technical study and seeing how CCA can benefit their area specifically. Tracy just recently joined East Bay Community Choice Energy, which is wonderful for them. They're going to start seeing some of those benefits. And just recently, Los Banos issued a feasibility study, and now they are weighing their options to, you know, be a single jurisdiction, maybe they want to join a JPA with some of the adjacent cities, or maybe they're going to join Peninsula Clean Energy. But at least they're weighing their options and they're trying to see what would be the best fit for them. So basically our hopes is that we will see a Fresno Community Choice Energy Agency in the future, and hopefully an RFP can be issued soon so we can move forward with a technical study and actually get the facts and numbers of what that will look like for this area. So thank you again.
Great, thank you, Destiny. Good job, and I would like to now bring on J.R. Killigrew, and sorry, I don't recall specifically your title, JR, but JR is with Monterey Bay Community Power, which is soon to be rechristened, I believe, Central Coast Community Power as it expands along the California coast. So take it away, JR.
Thanks again, Woody. This is J.R. Killigrew. I'm the Director of Communications and Outreach at Monterey Bay Community Power, yes, and soon to be Central Coast Community Energy as of September 20th. We've seen an incredible expansion in the last year or so, so we are actually moving towards unifying the entire Central Coast under one banner, Community Choice Energy Agency. So hopefully that does bring some interest to the Central Valley, that it doesn't have to necessarily be a network of individual CCAs, but the idea of potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 counties coming together to aggregate the buying power of all those constituents is certainly an option that I would certainly consider those folks evaluating. So I'm going to just kind of really focus in on MBCP's COVID-19 response and really present a business decision presentation, because a lot of what folks hear about community choice energy is it can do anything. It's got a, you know, the world is your oyster, but you also have to really realize that it is a business. It's got to stay here for a long time. There are a lot of dark forces trying to fight back the expansion of CCAs. So I think something that everybody has to remember is that we are a business. We do have to stay in business for a long, long time. So sometimes we have to make kind of tough decisions that may not be, you know, always, you know, the kind of pie in the sky utopian ideas. So I just want to kind of maybe kind of ground folks for a second. So when you move forward, if you could move to the next slide, please. So who we are, very quickly, we started off in the Monterey Bay region. So that was the first tri-county region to start a CCA. So that was Santa Cruz, San Benito, Monterey County. And as you can see by the 32 cities and county seals, we now represent 32 cities and counties across the Central Coast. So everyone in Santa Barbara County minus the city of Lompoc and the city of Santa Barbara, but the city of Buellton is actually having their second reading tonight. So we will be pretty much the entire county. We have 6 cities within the city of, within the county of San Luis Obispo, and then everyone in the Tri-County region minus King City, which actually started its own program. You know, our real goal is to help reduce emissions through the local control of utility scale renewable electricity generation, but done at competitive rates. But the most important thing that we're really focusing on is innovative energy programs that facilitate electrification of not only the transportation and built environment, but also the ag sector. We have about 15% of our customer base and our load is ag, and we know that there's a lot of emissions available out that could be reduced through the electrification of that sector. We've had a ton of success in the first 2+ years of operation. We've signed almost 500 megawatts of renewable energy in the state of California, but also 200 megawatts of battery storage. So just thinking about the kind of collective buying power of our expanding service area is really something that's really helping to accelerate our goal of being able to deploy reliable and balanced renewable energy onto the grid. From a kind of metric standpoint, we've helped customers save over $17 million since we started, and we've actually allocated almost $37 million towards energy programs, looking at energy resiliency through critical facilities, but then also electrification of both the ag sector, the built environment, and the transportation sector. So next slide. So in relationship to COVID-19, this is something that our board thought long and hard about. We actually have 3 boards. We have a community advisory council, which is of community constituents from across our service area. Our operations board is of city managers and county administrative officers who help kind of with the day-to-day operational decisions. And then our policy board is of local elected officials, could be mayors, city council members, or county board of supervisors. We really wanted to think through how do we complement what is happening locally through our nonprofits, our stakeholders, but also what the state is doing. And we really had three principles that guided our action, which is 1, how do we provide immediate relief? What is something that we can do immediately that we don't need to wait around for, that customers can benefit from? The second component was it has got to be impactful. We don't want to just embark on something that is just like short-lived, nice, it's a good thing to do. We wanted something that was impactful. And then last but certainly not least, simple. Customers are struggling, people are struggling across the entire state. How do we make it simple to implement so that people can feel that immediate relief and it can be impactful? So next slide. We had a myriad of options, and ultimately, based on those 3 principles, our board directed staff to bring back how do we reduce our rates effectively. So this is what we were looking at, and we use the term defer because it's not a complete financial relief in the sense that we were just reducing rates and then not asking those to be paid back. And that's why I kind of prefaced this presentation about making kind of tough business decisions, because again, we've only been in operation for 2 years. While we have significant reserves and we're in a great financial position, we also want to be around for a long, long time and also want to be competitive. So at the end of the day, we evaluated these 5 options, and what they all looked at was reducing all of our customer rates, not just one particular segment, but all of our customer rates. Because again, while we have a fair amount of care and FARA and medical baseline customers, we still have a lot of significant customers who use a lot of energy and spend a lot of money to receive power from MBCP. So the 5 options were, how do we reduce rates effectively across all rate classes? So option 1 was just 50% off of the May 2020 charges. Option 2 was 100% off of May 2020 charges. So basically just send our price per kilowatt hour to PG&E as 0. The third option was 50% off of May and June 2020 charges. And then the last 2 options were a myriad of 100 to 50%. So as you can see, these were pretty significant options that were presented to our board. And we all felt like these were worthy of discussion and worthy of the financial analysis that goes into providing this economic relief. So if you could go to the next slide, please. In terms of the financial analysis, and again, these are the type of things that you really have to dig into as an operational CCA, is really look at the numbers, really look at what makes sense, and then figure out a path forward that can be impactful, that can provide relief, but also figure out a way where you can stay in business for a long, long time. So our board ended up selecting option number 3. And so what that did was reduce all rates by 50% for the months of May and June. we actually had to reduce our programs allocation. So within our rates, we actually set aside 4% of our revenue towards energy programs, but in order to kind of claw back that relief that we provided those customers, we had to kind of decrease our program allocation from 4 to 3%. And then we had a 7% discount for all customers from January through April of 2020. And we ended up having to reduce that discount to 2% in order to be able to kind of bring back that revenue. Because again, $22 million is not something that you can just say, well, I'm just going to waive this and not think about it again. Our annual revenue is about $250 million a year right now. So the idea of completely waiving almost 9% of our agency's revenue and not look for ways to recoup that is something that all of our board members had to really think long and hard about. So next slide. This ultimately became our response to COVID-19. We did receive unanimous support from all of our boards, and all of our customers are benefiting from it. And again, there was no action needed. So we reduced all of our electric generation rates by 50% in May and June. And all that was is we have to send a rate sheet to PG&E as well as update our rate sheet. So we just took 50% off of every single price per kilowatt hour and sent that over to PG&E, and we were off and running. And what that translated to was almost $22.4 million of bill savings. And we broke it down to about $6.5 million collectively for our residential customers, almost $11 million for our commercial customers, and then a little over $5 million for our agricultural customers. Now, what was really interesting, and even despite the fact that our discount was higher in the first 4 months of the year and had to be ratcheted down to 2%, we looked at an overall analysis, and actually all of our customers were better off on an annual basis with this response than if they were just having that 7% discount that was static across the year. So that was really kind of music to the ears of not only our boards, but our customers. We also actually had some really great notes from some of our largest customers about what they were going to do effectively with those savings in terms of helping to pay for, protective gear, especially in the ag community, and really starting to kind of funnel those funds to really make sure that their workers were safe in light of social distancing and the pandemic. So next slide. Yeah, and then finally, last but certainly not least, these type of responses is really, I'd say, reassuring to our new member agencies in San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara as an innovative way for us to respond, and ultimately was the most impactful financial relief program that any CCA put forth related to COVID-19. We're really looking forward to unifying the Central Coast. As I mentioned, we are changing our name in September. We've got a great list of electrification programs that we're going to be coming out in October. And then we're doing a pretty significant enrollment this January of 11 new communities. And right now we're actually actively seeking a credit rating. So again, we're certainly here to help Fresno in any way, shape, or form make this decision. We do know that the Central Valley is that last kind of region that's looking to evaluate community choice energy. But the great thing about the model, though, is you can frame it in the way that's going to be most impactful to your constituents and really figure out ways to bring that revenue back into your community and make those meaningful investments for our low carbon future. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much, JR. Needed to unmute myself there. I think we now go to our question and answer period. And just so folks know, I think I did not mention up front, we did give ourselves an hour and a half for this webinar. So we're going to 12:30 and we're going to have a media interview or a media opportunity after that. So I do believe we do have a lot of questions that have come in. And so Destiny and or Nina, can you begin to read off some of those questions?
Certainly. So one of the questions that we got early on was, of the 21 CCAs, who are the 3 newest?
I believe this is sort of a question for not for our panelists. So I'll just say, I think it's Western Community Energy, Desert Community Energy in Riverside County, and
San Diego.
San Diego, right. So there's, thank you. So let's have questions that relate to what the panelists are covering, perhaps.
Another question was, I believe this is for Fresno EOC. It says, does funding for these weatherization services come from PG&E's local government program efforts that are part of energy efficiency programs that are funded ultimately via public purpose program charges on bills?
I'll go ahead and tackle that one. So we do have a contract with PG&E, actually through Richard Heath and Associates, and that is funded through the California Public Utilities Commission, the public purpose charge on everybody's utility bill. So that does represent one of the programs that we serve, and in addition to, like I said, the other ones are more federally funded.
So I'm just going through the chat right now. We did get another question that just came up. Says, and this one's for you, JR. It says, can you say something about electrification in general?
Sure. So I think the idea of electrification is effectively changing the consumption of fossil fuels into electricity. So think about it from the standpoint of the transportation sector. Vehicles run on diesel or gasoline, and there are tremendous emissions that are spread every year into the air across the states. The idea of being able to leverage utility scale, reliable, renewable energy to power those vehicles is a win-win. And then effectively within the built environment, you're looking at switching out, whether it's propane or natural gas in the home environment into clean, reliable, but also safe electrical appliances that can help increase air quality, reduce criterion air pollutants, but also make your home, safer and more secure in light of an earthquake or anything like that. So there are a lot of really great opportunities around electrification in general, but then as it relates to the built environment as well as the transportation sector.
Thank you, JR. So now I'm going to the actual Q&A. We have some questions in here. One, I believe this is for Fresno EOC. It says, these programs are impressive. Do you receive enough funding from all of these funders to reach all of those seeking service, or does the funding fall short to serve all of those seeking assistance?
Well, for the most part, we don't have to turn away a lot of clients. Yes, the funding is limited. For example, there's only so much available for solar, but for the most part, we can address, clients who have, like I said, maybe their heater or cooling device is not operating. We're able to assist them. There is limited funding on the utility bill assistance side because here again, they only allow that once per year. So I think there's especially with, the COVID-19, there was an increase, from the federal government, so we have had an increase, be able to serve more clients. However, on the weatherization side, we have had to curtail installations during this pandemic.
If I may just add, this is Elizabeth Johnson, Fresno EOC, a little bit of nuance to that. One is on the federal poverty guidelines, and I hate to go into too much detail, but the reality is a lot of these programs, a lot of social service programs are distributing eligibility based on federal poverty guidelines. And so when California has a minimum wage that's rising, and there are places that still abide by the federal minimum wage of $7.50 an hour, you can imagine that a federal poverty rate calculated at a national level would show that there's not a lot of people in need, when we know the reality in our Central Valley in California, because of cost of living. Even if we do make $13, $14, or $15 an hour, a lot of our families are still in poverty and still can't afford to meet their basic needs.
You know,
and so
sorry, go ahead.
That's been a huge challenge for our eligibility. And so there may be people that make a little bit more money than what the federal poverty guidelines state, and therefore don't qualify for some of our programs, but are still in need. I'm sorry, David, do you want to?
No, I should probably clarify too that it is rather complicated, because, like, for example, on the utility bill assistance, you can only apply for that once a year. So there's a huge need. So I need to qualify that people who submit an application, let's say for weatherization services, they can only be served, every 3 to 5 years. So there are situations where, because of the program regulations, there is a significant, percentage of our population, low-income families and households in Fresno County that cannot be served due to program restrictions. So it's for the ones that do qualify, they are served, but again, it's limited because of the fact that you can't apply every time you need it.
Which is why we would be excited for things like community choice energy, which would recognize some of the local needs, and we would be able to provide service in a much more flexible way.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you both. There's another question that just came up that's related. It's a question regarding Fresno Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. What's been motivating low-income households to receive energy budget education?
If I think I understand the question, I don't know if they're necessarily motivated, but it's important that we help them understand, that things are changing. Like, for example, the utilities are, moving to a time of use. And so it's important to understand, because again, because of the limitations of the funding, we need to kind of work, in partnership with them to help them understand, what they can do, how can they maybe change their habits to help reduce their energy burden, and also just become more familiar, with some of these new technology involving programmable thermostats. Again, we have a whole range of clients we serve. Some are more technically, proficient than others. And so it's just important that we do provide, in addition to just the physical changing out, a device or a measure, or providing utility bill assistance to help them maybe on their own reduce their utility burden.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Destiny?
There are a few. There's one on the Q&A, and I think this one's for me. It says, what stage is Fresno at in bringing on CCA, and what are next steps? So right now, the city of Fresno is interested and aware of CCA. Next steps would be hopefully trying to issue an RFP, a request for proposal, to get a technical study started. That has not been done at this time, but that would be the ideal next step. And I will share information on how people can help to make that a reality and help to move that along. But I don't want to take up too much time here, and we do have some other questions. So let me see.
Yeah, we'll have a slide after the Q&A session. We'll have a slide that Destiny will touch on how to engage on the community choice effort in Fresno.
So another question, and I think this might be for you, Woody. It says CCAs have been predominantly renewable based. What are the projected market opportunities establishing a CCA California requirement to be carbon free by 2045.
I wasn't quite clear on the latter part of that. I mean, the whole state is on a policy trajectory per executive orders from Governor Brown in 2018 to be, to have a decarbonized economy by 2045. Some of the community choice agencies, have commitments and programs and power mixes that are accelerating that timeline and getting to renewables and carbon-free electricity sooner than later. And so, it's worth noting that they're sort of leading the charge on renewables procurement, which there's a distinction to be made. Renewables, there's this California Renewable Portfolio Standard, and there's certain eligible kinds of renewable energy, solar, wind, geothermal, and the like. And then there are resources such as large dams and nuclear power that are deemed or claimed to be carbon free, but they are not part of the renewable energy eligibility in the state of California, because the state of California has policy goals of no new dammed rivers and no new nuclear plants. So those are not part of the sort of renewable energy mix. But again, if you look at the various 21 of them now, so it's a lot to look at. Virtually all of them have power mixes that are advancing more rapidly toward that, 100% renewable and carbon-free status. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's my sort of response.
Thank you, Woody. Another question just came up, and I think this probably be a Woody question. It says, can you address resource adequacy? How can you meet resource adequacy without increasing rates and still be green? That is why the IOUs are still the energy provider of last resort, and the San Diego Community Power CCA is left with no choice to buy natural gas from SDNG. So I'm guessing the question is, how can you address resource adequacy?
Yeah, I mean, so the community choice agencies have been abiding by their obligations for resource adequacy. I think that this is a sort of a very drill down technical question. It's just one of the many challenges that community choice agencies face. There's things like power charge and difference adjustment, the exit fee, there's resource adequacy, and there are other things. I don't know if JR might have a comment on this issue, but it's resource adequacy, for folks that don't know, is the requirement that any load serving entity, which is an investor-owned utility or a community choice agency, a load serving entity must have some extra power, electricity, available for those times during the year when there's a peak event and there's a spike in the load and a need for some extra juice, and that's what resource adequacy is all about. JR, did you want to comment on that question at all?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Woody. I think for the audience, the simplest way to think about it is it's an insurance policy. So you have a myriad of different grid assets that are across the state of California. It can be Diablo. It can be the fleet of gas plants that are along the northern waterfront in Contra Costa County, like all of those different resources, as well as solar resources, wind resources, geothermal, biogas. Any of those resources are available for resource adequacy effectively. And basically all load serving entities have to meet a certain requirement of RA, but effectively it just means it's like you're pointing to it. You're just saying that resource is available, but you're not contracting for the energy or any of it, except for just be able to tell the CAISO and the CPUC that like, these are the resources that are available that we are ensuring that can meet the reliability of the grid. And so at some times, yes, those have to be natural gas resources, because right now, with the amount of load that needs to be served, especially during peak times, it can't be completely served by clean and renewable resources. So natural gas is a part of that particular mix, but again, we're not contracting for it in the sense of we're deploying those resources. It's just being able to point to them via this insurance policy.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one more question. We rarely ever are able to answer all the questions that come in, so we can follow up with folks that have questions that weren't answered. But Destiny, if there's one more question that you can put to us, that would be great.
I think we answered all the questions. Unless
wow.
anybody wants to chime in and ask one last question for the panelists.
Or if maybe we could take this moment to say if any of the panelists have any closing comment that they'd like to offer.
Not at this time.
Okay.
I would. I just want to echo that one of the really wonderful revelations that's happened in the Central Valley is the number of utility scale renewable projects that CCAs are building here, especially Peninsula Clean Energy had a huge project in Merced. MBCP contracted for the 2 largest solar plus storage projects at the time in Kearns and Kings County, and we've actually contracted for a couple more in Tulare County as well as Kings and I think Kearns County again. So it's really fascinating to see this evolution of utility scale projects within the areas that aren't technically served by a CCA yet. So I think that's just an opportunity for the local elected officials to think about that mechanism to further leverage, to use their backyards as resources to help meet the state's goals as well as their own local needs.
Right. No, and I would say, you know, look at how those kinds of deployments, you know, that the Fresno communities can reap the full benefits of those deployments if they are of, by, and for the communities in the Central Valley. I think it's fine that you've got the dynamic of, you know, community choice agencies, you know, supporting and initiating these kinds of deployments. But you know, if Fresno, Central Valley had its own community choice agency, it could be, once again, it could be sort of reaping the full benefits of those projects. All right, so we will close out. Destiny, I think you wanted to touch on the points in this slide.
Thank you, Woody. Yes, so going back to what you can do to help as far as getting community choice energy off the ground in this area, you can help us by just spreading the word. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family members about community choice energy. It's still a relatively new concept in this area, even though this has been around for several years. Many people in the Central Valley aren't aware of community choice energy, so help us educate the community. Another way you can help is contact your elected leaders and ask them to evaluate community choice energy. Just send them an email, write them a letter. If you need help with templates or anything like that, please reach out to me. Like I said, I live here locally, I work here. So if you need a resource for CCA, please reach out to me. And my contact will be also provided at the end of the slide, so you can also email me. Another way you can help is if you are a local business owner or a community organizational leader, you can sign on to our Friends of Community Choice Energy list for the Central Valley. And what that is, next slide, please, is basically we're just calling for a further evaluation of what community choice energy could bring for this area. By signing on, this is just a list of supporters saying that they agree that the San Joaquin Valley has a wealth of diverse clean energy resources and the human resources needed to put clean energy to work for Valley residents and businesses. So if you are interested in signing and supporting, please reach out to me at the end.
Right.
Next.
And we'll share out the links to where people do this at the Climate Center and the Clean Power Exchange website. You see the dual logos down there. The Clean Power Exchange is our program, and that's where we have online the things like the Friends of Community Choice Energy.
Also, one of the other ways that you can help in regards to the climate crisis, because we are still in a climate crisis, even though we are experiencing a COVID crisis. We have multiple crises on hand. One way you can help with the climate crisis is by helping us to endorse our climate safe California campaign. And by doing this, it only takes 2 minutes of your time. and you will be making a lasting impact. So I encourage everyone to do that. And next slide, please. And we'll also provide the links as well for everyone so that they can do that. And we must accelerate existing state policies and timelines now more than ever. We need accelerated climate action. So we need you to help us to do that. And again, thank you all for listening and staying engaged this entire time. And again, please reach out.
And I just want to thank all the presenters. Before I continue, I want to thank JR and Elizabeth and David and you, Destiny, for a great job. And thank you to all the attendees. Just a few dates and reminders of things coming up. First of all, the webinar will be posted at our webinars page at the Clean Power Exchange program site. And on July 17th, we're hosting a climate justice town hall where Destiny Rodriguez and a representative of CEJA, the California Environmental Justice Alliance, will be presenting on climate justice. And the Climate Center is also hosting a Community Energy Resilience Summit on August 5th from 9 to noon. And that's the link for that where you can register. And that's going to be all about it's going to be all about how communities can build resilience in the face of these public safety power shutoffs and other events where the grid goes down, and how do we keep critical facilities operating for our communities when these events occur. So folks might want to dial into that. And it's very closely related to community choice energy, because those local agencies can play a key role in that effort. So with that, I believe this is our final closeout slide here with our contact information. So yes, just anyone, please contact us if you need a link or a follow-up question or anything to help you find what you're looking for on either the Fresno EOC program or the Climate Center's programs. Would be happy to make sure you get what you need. And so with that, I just want to thank everybody for participating and wishing you a fine rest of the day. So thank you very much. That concludes our webinar.